Okay, so this is on the Saturnian / Uranus kind of opposite dynamic of the body and reality in general. So here you can see I've got a human and I have overlaid the Qabalah. Now, I'm not exactly too interested in the Qabalah as a mystical system, mostly because realistically you have to learn a bit of Hebrew if you really want to understand it and go in deep. But I figured it would give a good diagram for what we're going to understand today. Now, you can see that this Malkuth here is the root or the earth. It's related. Now these are the planets here. You can also think of them as the archetypal aspects. So this is the earth. This is, what we all stand on, the actual earth. And it's related to the root chakra, the anus here, tailbone, perineal area. And then the lunar area, Qabalah, which is related to the moon, the bladder, as well as the prostate and womb. These can all be related. Now Hod here and Malkuth, Nazak and Hod is related to the kind of the lower flank area, I guess, the lower oblique, and also the hip to an extent, the hip and the sides of the pelvis. Which is Mercury here on the right side and Venus on the left. I believe that's correct. Though you could look that up as well. The solar center, the sun, which is Tiferet, I believe is the name. I'm a little bit rusty, to be completely honest. And you can see down here is the lower world. So these ones represent, I believe actually this is like the earth. So this is the earth. I think this is the water realm. This is kind of the air realm. Or actually they say it's the fire and this one's the air. It's a little bit strange in Qabalah. You've got the four worlds, right? And so you could also say this is fire and this is air, because lungs, air, obviously. So there is a little bit of debate, but anyway, this is the solar center around, I believe it's called the pancreas area. And it's debatable actually whether this is the stomach, whether Tiferet is the stomach, and then Qabalah is the liver, being on the right side, and I think it's Hesed, I believe this is what's called, Hesed, which is Jupiter, is the stomach. That it could be there, and then you could have Saturn, and I think it's Hokmah and Binah, I believe, which Binah is Neptune. It's debated whether they are the shoulders or whether they are the sides of the head. So you're going to have to kind of figure that one out on your own. Anyway, we've got Pluto as the throat. This is kind of the forbidden or the hidden chakra. Yeah, quite interesting. And then again, Saturn and Neptune. Now this is once you get beyond the planets, and this area here you can think, well actually technically this area is the Logos or the stars. So this is once you get beyond the planets, which I guess, debatably some people think they are stars. Some people don't think they're physical, whether they are or aren't. I have one experience now. Admittedly, I was on copious amounts of drugs, but I looked at the moon through a telescope and the moon did look physical. Now I still don't know, because some people say the moon is made out of plasma. Maybe, maybe not. It did look physical, but as I said, I was under a lot of drugs, so maybe I saw it wrong. I don't know. We'll figure that one out in another video, I guess. And then finally at the top we have Uranus. So really what we're looking at, and that's the crown of the head. So this is the crown of the head, pure spiritual matter, which is ultra high frequency radiation. Now this is beyond, now this whole spectrum here is like the radiation spectrum, the ultra high frequency bandwidth, lower frequency bandwidth. So this is more like radio. It's kind of funny because it relates to the throat. Radio waves relate to the throat. Then the more like gigahertz band waves kind of, and light and visible light relates to the visuals in the head. Isn't that nice? Then ultra high frequency, excuse me, relates to the crown, and this would be the airwaves. Actually, this is the air. This is upper atmosphere here. This is lower atmosphere. This is like the water, the ocean here against these, and this is the you know, the physical earth of which we stand upon, and the lower legs is like the lower mineral kingdoms of you know, into further and further into hell, or further and further into the lower earth. There is, you know, lots of riches to find. Okay, so we have these two areas. Now, while this is represented by the Earth, you can also represent it by Saturn if you want. And again, Uranus here, which is its symbol. Some people debate whether where the symbols go, but this is, I believe, the true Qabalah, or the true planetary ones. It ain't no bullshit one that you see on the internet. If you look them up, you'll see Pluto like up here or there. You know, you could debate things, but we're just going to work on this dynamic here. So Saturn is obviously physical reality. Excuse me. Uranus is hyper spiritual. This is hyper energy. This is, if you shot this at someone with like a gun that had this stuff, it would disintegrate them. It wouldn't burn them. This is kind of lower level. This is more plasma, you could think. You know, the lower you get, the more into it. You get light plasma, so ultra high frequency radiation. This is the stuff Tesla was going to use. The Uranus energy is the energy Tesla was going to use for his Wardenclyffe tower, which people say, like, well, you know, wouldn't the electromagnetic energy fall off just the same way we need like repeaters, like Wi-Fi repeaters and all that? Yeah, if you used a lower frequency, but the highest frequency would be able to penetrate everything. And if you made it good, like if you got you really tested it out and you made it good, it'd penetrate everything and it wouldn't disintegrate things. It wouldn't, you know, destroy things. It's the same way you can have good and bad Wi-Fi. And there's a lot of interesting stuff with orgonite actually. Uranus relates to orgonite. If you look at orgonite energy, you know, the quartz crystal and metal shards and crystals combined in a fiberglass resin, it produces like a ultra high frequency radiation, and that's why there's actually a lot of companies like that are producing amulets and such, which YouTubers are making videos on, saying, look at this, these are poisonous, these orgonite things are poisonous because they're radioactive. Now, there's a whole lot of interesting stuff with radioactivity. Orgonite apparently produces radioactivity, or it's measured by radioactivity. You can use a Geiger counter to measure orgonite. And I'll admit, too much orgonite makes you sick. It's not good. And the wrong orgonite makes you feel bad. I don't recommend iron, personally. Unless you're really hardcore into, like, you know, iron and red stones and all that, just be careful with what you use. I'd recommend things like copper, silver, and gold. Those are the good ones. Maybe zinc, maybe tin, but yeah, just be careful. So a lot of these amulets are radioactive. Radioactivity is Uranus, you know, ultra high radioactivity. You've got your multiple kinds of radioactivity, which basically the higher frequency, the more it penetrates through something. I know they use lasers for like surgery and stuff. It's very interesting to penetrate through and like disintegrate things within a body. So yeah, but anyway, Saturn of course is ultra physical. It's drying. It's the way physical matter forms. If you can notice this, certain liquids will then crystallize and coagulate into a physical material, a physical solid, right? Like a goo or a gel will then just dry out into physical matter. Now, a lot of people are very Saturnian, but if you have your indigo children or the crystal children and all that kind of people, this crystal like the glass glossiness is up here. Stone, dark stone is down here. But a lot of those indigo children are up here. That's why they're very bad at physical reality. A lot of them are drug addicts. A lot of them they can't keep jobs or relationships. They're immensely spiritual people. They're very wise, and they're very brilliant and amazing, and maybe a great artists or great speakers or great visionaries, but they can't actualize anything. They can't bring anything to reality. That's more Gen Z. And I don't know, maybe the alpha generations, well, I'm not quite sure. I guess like after around the 80s, millennials, Gen Z, it started to go more. Millennials are kind of more, actually, I'm not sure, Gen X might be, because your boomers are down here at the Earth chakra. Maybe Gen X is kind of there, but they're also around here, the air, they're kind of airy as well. But I don't know, you'd have to think about that. But anyway, boomers, they had a lot of lead in a lot of this stuff. They absorbed a lot of that lead. Well, the generations now, they're absorbing a lot more like ultra high frequency radiation from Wi-Fi and electronics and all that. Well, the boomers, they had a lot more nutrients in the soil. They said things tasted better then. So they're very rich. They got a lot of properties, a lot of houses. This is all that. This is like high-speed internet. This is thoughts and ideas. This is a person who's they've got a lot of thoughts. They've got a lot of inspiration. They've got a lot of things they want to do. Maybe they really want to travel or really want to start up this business and do this stuff, but they just don't have the back to do it. They don't have the spine. They don't have the bones. They don't have the legs, the strength to support it. So they stop after a few weeks. This person has all the stability in the world. They can work like a crazy person, but they have no ideas. They have no inspiration. They're kind of boring. They're kind of dry. They're kind of they're a bit dopey. They're a bit feel old, and they feel like a rock. That's the difference between these two people. But you need both of these. Because this is the consciousness, this is the body. Without the body, you have nowhere to house the consciousness. You're just a spirit, ethereal spirit. Like when you're dreaming, you're just kind of astrally projecting to different locations. I remember having this dream where I was at like a pizza shop. It was too realistic. It was kind of like watching a one of those kind of low budget New Zealand or Australian dramas. You'll notice the Australian and New Zealand dramas are very kind of rough in a way. It's very like lower class people, working classes, like a working class drama. But maybe America or UK. UK probably hasn't, but yeah, maybe America, UK hasn't as well. And it felt like a pizza shop, a very working class pizza shop. And I honestly, genuinely think that I was there, like I astrally projected there, and that was a real place, and that was a real people, and that was a real event. I was just kind of like spiritually there. Anyway, so that's just spiritually being somewhere, and this is just physically like a robot or yeah, something that doesn't think for itself, that doesn't have inspiration. But even a robot has electricity, so that's why electronics are conscious in a way. You know, people think, or you think you can influence electronics with your mind, you know, with a random number generator. Maybe I'll make a video on it where you have a random number generator and we'll try to influence it with our minds. You could do like a live stream where you get lots of people, because you think the electronics has electricity, you know, electromagnetism running through it. Your mind is electromagnetic. What is to stop the electromagnetic field from exiting your skull? Now, of course, physical matter blocks, you know, lead blocks, and you know, the tin foil, you know, the tin foil foiling your house to stop the, you know, electromagnetic radiation, and making the tin foil hat and all that. But as I said with like the Tesla's Wardenclyffe dial, the higher frequency and the more powerful your mind, mental energy is, the more you can penetrate things. So you're penetrating electronics, or penetrating walls or whatever, with like the Wi-Fi router, which is your mind. And your mind it's got like an inbuilt Wi-Fi router, and that's how you psychically connect to others, and you know, and do all that stuff. So what's to stop you from influencing a computer or a phone that's using a random number generator? Nothing is to stop you. Only your own limitations of having not practiced magic. You know, you've got, of course, it's like, what is to stop you lifting 100 kilograms above your head? Only your own weakness, only your own inexperience, really. Same way with magic, only your own magical inexperience. So yeah, this is really, you know, uranium, radioactive materials, lead, stone, earth, dirt. People are rewarded for being more Saturnian usually, but they become a cog. You know, the more you work, the more you're rewarded with money, but it eats up your time to work. Well, this, no one really cares about the ideas person, because they haven't done the work, you know, they haven't actualized it. But everyone wants, it's like, this is the lifeblood, this is the entertainment, this is the coolness, you know. A person who has a decent amount of Saturnianness but a, you know, Uranianness can be cool. They can have a fun, interesting, entertaining life and become a cool person. Well, if you have too much Saturnianness, you will be physically okay, but you might not be, you know, interesting or something. So you got to have a base. You got to have a little bit of this Uranian energy if you're, you know, a very Saturnian person. And there's nothing wrong with being a Saturnian person, or a Uranian person, or a balance of both. Of course, there is a problem if you can't pay your bills, you know, if you don't have enough Saturnian energy, or if you're too Saturnian and you literally become like a soulless NPC. A lot of people walking around kind of like soulless NPCs. I think of people a bit like just NPCs. And you can have fun with the NPCs, you know, you can talk to them. You can kind of, just say if you're very Uranian, you kind of give that energy to a Saturnian person, and if they're very Saturnian, they give that energy to a Uranian person and stabilize them and kind of allow them to develop their thoughts into reality. So there's a very interesting dynamic. But anyway, I hope I gave you enough ideas and information on this thing, so that now you can you know, apply it to your own life and kind of understand it philosophically in reality, and just, you know, understand it through the world, like the earth, the sky, you know, all that, the logos, ether, and all that, or in your own body, as your head and the legs, all that, and in other ways. Anyway, that is all. Of course, feel free to check the links below for social and commercial purposes, and have a nice day.